The sky above the planet Virelia was a swirl of violet and gold, streaked with clouds that glowed faintly in the dim light of the twin suns. The surface was rugged, filled with jagged cliffs and wide, shimmering lakes. For the human exploration team, the planet was beautiful and dangerous at the same time. Commander Elias Dane led his small squad of soldiers and scientists carefully through the rocky terrain. Their mission was clear: explore, study, and establish friendly contact with any intelligent life forms. Elias adjusted his helmet and glanced at the team. "Keep your scanners on. We do not know what we will find here," he said. His voice was calm but carried authority. The humans had trained for this moment for years, yet the unknown always brought a sharp edge to their nerves. The ground beneath them trembled faintly, and the team paused. Through the dust, shapes began to appear, tall, graceful figures moving with precise coordination. They were the first Virelians humans had ever seen, and their appearance was striking. They had smooth, iridescent skin that reflected the sunlight, long limbs, and eyes that seemed to hold both wisdom and caution. A young Virelian child ran ahead of the group, laughing as her feet barely touched the ground. The humans froze. It was clear she did not fear them. Elias raised his hand in a gesture of peace, and the child paused, staring at him with wide eyes. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed from the cliffs. A group of rogue Virelians, marked by dark streaks across their skin, charged toward the child. Panic surged through the squad. The child's small frame would never withstand such an attack. Without hesitation, a human soldier, Lieutenant Marcus Hale, stepped forward. He was not the largest in the squad, but his movements were precise and quick. He activated his energy shield, deflecting a strike aimed at the child. Then, with skill honed from years of training, he grabbed the child and pulled her behind his shield, keeping her safe as he fought the attackers. The child's eyes were wide with wonder, staring at the human who had just saved her. For the first time, she felt no fear toward a human. Marcus moved with careful speed, ensuring the child was protected at every moment. The other humans and even some Virelians joined in to repel the attackers. Within moments, the rogue group was driven back, retreating toward the cliffs from where they had come. The child, panting and trembling slightly, looked up at Marcus. "He protected me," she said in the musical language of the Virelians. She pointed at Marcus and then at herself, her small hands trembling with excitement. Elias approached, keeping his voice calm. "Are you hurt?" he asked gently, though he knew the child could not understand him fully. She shook her head. Her eyes stayed fixed on Marcus, her expression a mixture of gratitude and awe. From the cliffs above, a tall figure emerged. The alien queen of the Virelians, her skin glimmering like polished metal, watched the scene with wide, guarded eyes. She was known for her strict rules and stern demeanor, and seeing her daughter in danger brought a rare look of fear across her face. The queen descended gracefully, her presence commanding immediate respect. She spoke in the Virelian tongue, and the humans could not understand, but the tone was unmistakable. Anger, worry, and authority mixed together. Her gaze fell on Marcus. He stood calmly, protecting the child, and for a moment the queen hesitated. The child clung to Marcus's side and said again, more firmly this time, "He protected me, Mom." Her voice carried across the rocky field, filled with pride and relief. The queen's eyes widened. She had never heard her daughter speak with such confidence, especially in front of a human. She took a step closer, her expression softening just slightly. Marcus lowered his shield, showing that he meant no harm, and slowly nodded to the queen, signaling peace. The other humans kept a respectful distance, knowing this was not the time for introductions. Elias watched carefully, reading the queen's subtle gestures. He knew that first impressions here would decide the success of their mission. The queen spoke again, her words firm, yet there was a note of curiosity in her tone. The humans could only guess her meaning from her gestures. It was clear she wanted to understand why her daughter trusted this human so quickly. Marcus knelt slightly to be at the child's level, careful not to seem threatening. "I'm safe now," the child said, smiling. She held out her hand toward Marcus, a gesture of friendship. The queen's eyes softened even more, though she did not lower her guard entirely. She stepped forward, gently placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Marcus understood. He slowly extended his own hand toward the queen, a universal sign of peace and respect. She studied him carefully, scanning for any hint of deception but found none. He was unlike any alien she had met, Yet he carried himself with courage and honesty. The Queen nodded subtly. It was not a gesture of full trust, but it was a start. She motioned for her daughter to step back and then turned her gaze toward Elias. She tilted her head, as if weighing the human's intentions. Elias gave a small, respectful bow, signaling that they came with peaceful intent. The child clung to Marcus a little longer, whispering something in her own language. Marcus smiled gently, unsure of her words but sensing her gratitude. For the first time he felt that humans and aliens could understand each other through simple acts of bravery and kindness. Suddenly the ground shook again. It was not as violent as the previous attack, but enough to remind everyone of the planet's dangers. Elias motioned for the team to stay alert. Marcus stood still close to the child, ready to defend if needed. The Queen observed, her gaze sharp, protective yet intrigued by the human's calm bravery. As the twin suns dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the cliffs and lakes, a fragile silence settled. The humans had survived their first encounter, and more importantly, they had protected one of the most important members of the alien society. The Queen's daughter had found a friend and perhaps an ally. The Queen finally spoke in a quieter tone, addressing her daughter, yet keeping her eyes on Marcus. The child nodded eagerly, then looked back at Marcus and smiled. That simple smile carried more weight than words. It was a sign of trust, and in the harsh alien world of Virelia, trust was rare and precious. Marcus took a step back, allowing the Queen to guide her daughter. He knew this was only the beginning. First contact had been made, but understanding would take time. Yet in that moment he felt a strange warmth, a sense that humans and Virelians could find common ground. Elias approached Marcus quietly. "You did well," he said softly. "She trusts you. That's more than I expected for the first meeting." Marcus nodded, still watching the child as she clung briefly to her mother's hand, before stepping closer to the humans, curiosity lighting her eyes. "I just did what anyone should do," Marcus said. But inside he felt a thrill. He had seen the beginnings of something extraordinary, a bond that could change the future. As the sun dipped completely behind the horizon, the team set up a temporary camp near a calm lake. The alien Queen stayed on the cliffs above, her eyes never leaving her daughter. But now, instead of anger, there was a flicker of something new. Hope. The human soldier and the alien child sat near the campfire, exchanging gestures and simple drawings in the dirt. Neither fully understood the other's language, but communication found a way. Trust was building, and in the silence of that alien night, the first threads of friendship began to weave between two very different worlds. The Queen watched until the stars appeared in the violet sky. She could not deny it any longer. The human had protected her daughter, and in doing so he had shown a bravery and kindness that even she could respect. A tear slid down her cheek, the first she had allowed herself in public in many cycles. It was a small, silent acknowledgement of something profound, the possibility that humanity was not just a curiosity, but a force for good in her world. The humans, unaware of the tear, continued their careful observation of the planet. The rogue attackers had retreated for now, but Virelia was a place full of challenges. Marcus kept one hand lightly on the child's shoulder, a silent promise that he would remain vigilant, and the child, for the first time in her life, felt a warmth and safety she had never known before. In the quiet of that alien night, with stars shimmering like distant lanterns above, the story of trust and friendship began, a story that could one day unite humans and Virelians in ways neither species could yet imagine. The morning sun rose slowly over Virelia, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and pink. The twin suns reflected off the crystal-like lakes, creating shimmering patterns across the rocky landscape. For the human team, it was another day of exploration, but for the young Virelian girl, it was a day filled with curiosity and wonder. Lieutenant Marcus Hale awoke near the campfire, careful not to disturb the child who had spent the night close by, under the watchful eye of her mother from the cliffs. She had insisted on being near Marcus, though the Queen had finally agreed, seeing no harm in letting her daughter remain close to the human who had protected her. The child stretched and yawned, her bright eyes scanning the humans around her. She had never been this close to humans before, and every small movement fascinated her. Marcus handed her a simple tool he had been using to repair their scanner. She took it carefully, turning it in her hands, trying to understand its purpose. "Careful," Marcus said gently, smiling. "It is fragile, but it is useful." The girl nodded, watching him closely. Her small hands moved slowly, imitating his actions, and Marcus realized she was learning more quickly than he expected. Commander Elias joined them, scanning the horizon with his binoculars. "No sign of the rogues yet," he said. "But Virelia is full of surprises. Stay alert." His voice carried calm authority, reminding everyone of the potential dangers around them. The girl looked up at Marcus and spoke in her musical language. Marcus shook his head, pretending to be puzzled. She giggled and repeated her words, pointing at herself, then at Marcus, then at the lake. Marcus understood she was asking if they could explore together. He nodded and her smile widened. The queen watched from the cliffs, her eyes studying the interaction. She could not understand the language, but the gestures and expressions spoke volumes. She had never seen her daughter interact with a non-Virelian in such a gentle and respectful way. Curiosity stirred within her, mingling with caution. The humans and the child began to walk toward the lake, Marcus staying close to her side. Every step was careful as the terrain was rocky and unfamiliar to the girl. Marcus pointed out safe paths, guiding her with patience. The child tried to mimic his careful movements, occasionally laughing when she slipped slightly, and Marcus steadied her. "Good," Marcus said encouragingly. "You are learning quickly," the girl beamed. She wanted to understand humans, their ways, and why they were different yet so brave. Every small act of kindness from Marcus seemed to surprise her. She had seen brave warriors before, but none had protected her without expectation, without judgment. Meanwhile, the queen called a meeting with her advisors. Her expression was stern, but her mind was filled with questions. How could a human, a being so different, show such courage and compassion? Was this the first step toward peace? Or was it a dangerous curiosity that could bring trouble to her daughter? The advisors spoke cautiously, warning the queen against trusting humans. They described them as unpredictable and potentially harmful. The queen listened but remained silent, her thoughts returning again and again to the image of her daughter safe in Marcus's arms. Back by the lake, Marcus taught the girl how to use a small scanner device. She followed his instructions carefully, her eyes wide with concentration. When she finally managed to operate it correctly, she clapped her hands in delight. Marcus laughed, genuinely happy to see her excitement. "You did it," he said. "You are very smart." The child hugged him briefly, a gesture of thanks that touched Marcus more than he expected. He realized that trust could be built through simple actions, patience, and respect. For a moment, the differences between their species seemed to vanish. The day continued with small lessons. Marcus showed her how to identify safe paths, how to avoid dangerous terrain, and how to observe the environment carefully. Each lesson was an opportunity for learning, not just for the child but for the humans as well. They began to understand the subtleties of Virelian behavior and culture through her reactions. As the sun climbed higher, the humans noticed movement on the horizon. Another group of Virelians approached, this time with curiosity rather than aggression. They observed from a distance, whispering among themselves. Some carried equipment, others watched closely. It was clear they had come to assess the humans' intentions. The child waved eagerly at the newcomers, running a few steps toward them before Marcus gently held her back. She looked up at him, eyes shining with excitement. Marcus nodded, allowing a cautious approach. The other Virelians relaxed slightly when they saw the girl was unharmed and happy. The queen descended from the cliffs, her presence commanding immediate attention. She walked toward the humans, her eyes never leaving her daughter. The humans bowed slightly in respect, sensing the importance of the moment. Marcus remained calm, standing next to the child, showing that he posed no threat. The queen spoke in her native language, her tone serious but not angry. The child responded quickly, speaking proudly of the human who had protected her. The queen's eyes softened, though her expression remained cautious. She turned to her advisors, nodding slowly. They whispered among themselves, their uncertainty clear. The child pointed to Marcus, then to herself, then to the lake. It was clear she wanted to show the humans something special. The queen allowed it, watching carefully as her daughter led Marcus and the team to a sparkling waterfall hidden in the cliffs. The water fell into a crystal-clear pool, creating a rainbow in the mist. "This is my favorite place," the child said in a series of gestures and sounds. Marcus nodded, understanding the meaning. He gestured for the team to observe quietly. The humans admired the beauty, realizing that even in this alien world, There were moments of wonder that transcended species. The child demonstrated how to move carefully across the slippery rocks, and Marcus followed her lead. They laughed together when small splashes of water landed unexpectedly. For the first time, the humans and the Varelian girl shared a moment of pure joy, untainted by fear or conflict. The queen watched from a distance, a mixture of pride and worry in her eyes. Her daughter was happy, yes, but she was also learning from humans, creatures so different from their kind. Could this be dangerous, or could it be the beginning of something new? As the day wore on, Marcus and the child returned to the camp. He helped her carry small samples of rocks and plants they had collected. She studied each item carefully, asking questions with gestures and sounds. Marcus explained as best he could, showing her how humans learned about the world. Elias approached, observing the growing bond. "This is remarkable," he said quietly to Marcus. "She trusts you completely." "That is more than we expected for our first contact." Marcus nodded. "Trust is built through actions, not words," he replied. "And she has seen my actions." The queen approached as they settled near the campfire. She knelt slightly to meet her daughter's eyes. The girl pointed to Marcus and said something, her voice filled with pride. The queen listened carefully, then looked at Marcus with a subtle nod. It was not full trust yet, but it was recognition. He had proven himself in her eyes. The humans and the child spent the evening sharing small discoveries. Marcus showed her how to use simple tools, and she shared stories of her world through drawings in the dirt. The language barrier was significant, but communication found a way through gestures, expressions, and shared curiosity. The queen remained nearby, silently observing. She did not intervene, but allowed her daughter to learn and grow. She realized that humans could teach her daughter bravery and ingenuity without causing harm. And more importantly, she saw the beginnings of a connection that could one day unite their worlds. As the twin suns set, casting long shadows over the lake, the humans prepared for the night. The child lay close to Marcus, finally relaxing in the presence of someone she trusted completely. The queen watched from the cliffs, a single tear sliding down her cheek. It was not sorrow, but a quiet acknowledgement of something new, a hope that humans could be allies and friends, not threats. The night fell gently over Varelia, and the stars shimmered brightly above. The humans and the young Varelian girl rested, knowing that tomorrow would bring new challenges and new lessons. But for the first time, they had built trust, and trust, fragile as it was, had the power to change everything. The next morning, the planet Varelia awoke under the soft light of its twin suns. Mist hovered above the lakes, and the jagged cliffs reflected the early light in sharp patterns. For the human team, the beauty of the world was almost distracting, but there was little time for admiration. The planet was full of surprises, and dangers were never far away. Lieutenant Marcus Hale had risen early, as always. He checked the perimeter around the temporary camp, and then glanced toward the cliffs where the alien queen had spent the night. Her figure was tall and commanding, yet her posture suggested a careful watchfulness. The young Varelian girl stood near Marcus, eager to start the day's exploration. "Good morning," Marcus said gently, smiling down at her. She responded with a series of melodic sounds and gestures, pointing toward the nearby forest. She wanted to explore more, to learn more about the world around her. Marcus nodded, understanding her excitement. Meanwhile, the alien queen convened a meeting with her council. The morning's light revealed the tension in their faces. The rogue faction that had attacked her daughter previously had not been seen, but intelligence suggested they were planning something more significant. Their goal was clear. Humans were dangerous, unpredictable, and must be removed. The queen listened carefully as her advisors debated. Some argued that the humans were clever and potentially useful. Others insisted that trusting them could threaten the entire Varelian society. She remained silent, her mind divided between duty and the undeniable bravery she had witnessed in Marcus. Back at the camp, Marcus and the girl wandered toward a narrow canyon that cut through the cliffs. She led the way, pointing out peculiar plants and unusual rock formations. Marcus followed closely, ensuring her safety while allowing her to explore freely. "Careful here," Marcus said, pointing to a loose stone. The girl mimicked his careful steps, laughing softly when she managed to cross without slipping. She was learning from him, but more importantly, she trusted him completely. As they reached a plateau overlooking a wide valley, Marcus's scanner detected unusual activity. Small movements, barely visible, indicated the presence of more rogue Virelians. Marcus's expression tightened. He knew they were close and could pose a threat not only to him and the child, but also to the other humans and the Queen's people. He pointed to the movement and spoke quietly to the girl, using gestures. She understood immediately and nodded. They began to move cautiously back toward camp, avoiding open areas where the rogues could see them easily. The child's instinct for safe paths impressed Marcus. Even in such a dangerous situation, her curiosity had not faded, and she had learned to combine it with caution. At the same time, the Queen observed the area from her cliffside vantage point. She could see the rogues moving through the valley and understood the danger they posed. Yet she hesitated. Marcus and her daughter were in the path, and she had to decide whether to intervene immediately or trust Marcus to protect them. Inside the camp, Commander Elias reviewed the situation on his portable scanner. "The rogues are mobilizing again," he said quietly. "We may need to prepare for a confrontation." Marcus approached the Queen, bowing slightly in respect. "I see the threat," he said, his tone calm. "I can handle it. We need to protect the girl first." The Queen looked at him carefully. She could not speak their language, but his tone and posture conveyed honesty. Her gaze shifted to her daughter, who looked back with a mixture of trust and determination. The child wanted her mother to trust Marcus, and the Queen felt the weight of that silent plea. With a subtle gesture, the Queen allowed Marcus to take responsibility. It was not full trust, but it was enough for him to act decisively. Marcus gathered his team, quietly explaining the plan through gestures and simple commands. The humans positioned themselves strategically, prepared to defend the child and ensure the safety of everyone nearby. The rogues appeared first as shadows on the valley floor. They moved quickly, attempting to surround the humans and the child. Marcus kept the child close, using his shield to deflect any sudden attacks. His movements were precise, and his calm demeanor inspired confidence in both his team and the child. The child clung briefly to Marcus, whispering in her language. He could not understand her words, but the tone carried meaning. She was telling him not to worry, that she trusted him completely. Marcus felt a surge of resolve. He would not fail her. As the rogues drew closer, Marcus coordinated with the humans. They created barriers using portable shields and sensors to detect movement. Each step was calculated, ensuring the safety of the child and minimizing confrontation. The rogues were aggressive, but they had underestimated the humans' ability to anticipate their moves. From the cliffs, the Queen watched closely. Her heart raced as her daughter faced danger, yet she noticed how Marcus remained composed, acting with strategy and care. Slowly, she began to understand that his bravery was not reckless. He was protecting her daughter, not seeking conflict. The battle, brief but intense, unfolded with surprising clarity. The rogues were pushed back by a combination of human strategy and the child's quick thinking. She pointed out routes and obstacles, guiding Marcus through areas that gave them a tactical advantage. Her insight impressed the humans, showing that courage and intelligence could come in any form. At one point, a rogue broke through the perimeter and charged toward the child. Marcus reacted instantly, placing himself between them and using his shield to block the attack. The rogue stumbled but was quickly restrained by the humans nearby. The child's wide eyes met Marcus's, and she whispered something urgent in her language. He nodded, reassuring her silently. The Queen felt a mixture of fear and pride. Her daughter was safe, and it was due to the humans' actions. The rogues, realizing they could not succeed, began to retreat, disappearing into the cliffs and valleys beyond. After the danger passed, Marcus lowered his shield and looked at the child. She smiled brightly, her trust in him unshakable. "You were brave," she said simply, her voice filled with admiration. Marcus smiled back, knowing that words could not fully express the bond forming between them. The Queen approached slowly, her eyes softening as she observed the scene. She knelt slightly, keeping her gaze on her daughter while acknowledging Marcus's courage. It was a silent recognition of the value he had shown, not just in battle but in protecting what mattered most. The child tugged gently at her mother's hand, pointing at Marcus and then at herself. She wanted her mother to understand that trust had been earned, not demanded. The Queen looked at Marcus again, her eyes reflecting a mix of emotion, respect, gratitude, and the beginning of acceptance. Commander Elias approached, speaking quietly to Marcus. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "The child's safety and their trust in you. That is invaluable." Marcus nodded. "It is more than that," he replied. "It shows that even in a world so different from ours, courage and kindness can build bridges." The Queen motioned for her advisors to observe quietly. She did not speak, but her actions were clear. The humans had proven themselves not as invaders but as protectors, and her daughter had shown that she could see the value of this protection, even if it came from an unfamiliar species. As the sun began to lower in the sky, the humans and the Virelian child returned to the camp. She carried small samples of plants and stones, proudly showing Marcus what she had found. He encouraged her, helping her identify safe paths and teaching her how humans examine the world. Each lesson strengthened their bond, and each moment of shared understanding deepened the trust between species. The Queen remained on the cliffs, watching silently. Her thoughts were heavy with the implications of the day. Humans were different, unpredictable, and yet capable of actions that inspired loyalty and admiration. Could this relationship be the start of something greater for her people? Only time would tell, but she felt a quiet hope stirring within her. As night approached, the twin suns dipped behind the cliffs, casting long shadows over the valley. The camp settled into calm routines, with humans preparing equipment and the child sharing stories of her day through drawings and gestures. Marcus stayed close, ever watchful, but allowing her freedom to explore and express herself. The Queen watched from above, her heart softening further. She realized that trust was not about authority or control. It was about understanding, protection, and respect. And today, a human soldier had earned that trust, not through force but through courage and care. The night air was cool and quiet, filled with the distant sounds of the alien world. The humans rested, the child lay near Marcus, and the Queen remained vigilant yet contemplative. A fragile peace had formed, strengthened by bravery and mutual respect. But the rogues had not disappeared entirely, and the tensions within Virelian society remained. The Queen knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, decisions, and perhaps conflicts. But she also knew something vital. Her daughter had learned that courage and kindness could come from unexpected places, and that trust once earned could change the course of a world. And so, under the twin suns and starlit sky, the bond between human and Virelian began to deepen. Trust had been tested, courage had been shown, and a new understanding had begun to form. The seeds of unity had been planted, even in a world filled with uncertainty and danger. The next day on Virelia dawned bright and clear, but the calm was deceptive. The rogue faction that had threatened the Queen's daughter was regrouping, and their intent was now unmistakable. Commander Elias monitored the scanners intently. "They are moving fast," he said. "We need to be ready before they reach the camp." Marcus Hale knelt beside the young Virelian girl who had awoken early, eyes bright with curiosity. She tugged at his sleeve and pointed toward the cliffs in the distance. Her instincts told her danger was near, and Marcus felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. "Stay close," he whispered, gently holding her hand. "We will protect you." The Queen watched silently from the cliffs, her heart tight with worry. She could see the humans preparing their defenses and knew her daughter was in capable hands, yet she could not fully relax. The rogue faction was larger than anticipated, and the outcome was uncertain. Marcus gave his team quick instructions. Portable energy barriers were activated, sensors deployed, and defensive positions set along the most likely paths of attack. The humans moved with calm precision, their training and experience evident in every action. Marcus stayed near the child, offering quiet encouragement as they positioned themselves behind a natural ridge that would provide some cover. The first wave of rogues appeared from the canyon below. They were fast and aggressive, charging with sharp, elongated weapons. Marcus's team responded immediately, activating shields to block the attacks while keeping the child safe behind protective cover. The clash of energy and metal created a brief but intense flash across the valley. Marcus noticed a group of rogues attempting to flank from the left side. He acted quickly, signaling to two human soldiers to intercept. The child watched, her eyes wide but trusting, knowing Marcus would keep her safe. He used simple gestures to reassure her, pointing to a safe space behind a boulder where she could observe without danger. The rogue fighters were skilled, but they underestimated the humans' ability to strategize quickly. Marcus coordinated with Commander Elias, using scanners to anticipate the rogues' movements. Every move was calculated, designed to minimize risk and protect the most vulnerable. During the battle, the child offered unexpected help. She pointed toward loose rocks along the ridges, suggesting where humans could create small obstacles to slow the rogues. Marcus acted on her advice, shifting a few barriers and creating natural traps. Her insight proved invaluable, showing that bravery and intelligence were not limited by species. The queen watched from above, a mixture of fear and pride filling her chest. She had always valued strength, yet the courage of her daughter and the humans together was unlike anything she had witnessed. The human soldier had not only protected her daughter but also earned the respect of the young Varelian through careful guidance and trust. A rogue managed to break through the first line of defense, charging directly toward the child's position. Marcus reacted instantly, moving between the attacker and the child. His energy shield intercepted the strike, and with careful precision he pushed the rogue back. Two human soldiers quickly joined to subdue the attacker, ensuring no harm came to the child. The child watched closely, her small hands gripping the edge of the boulder as she witnessed Marcus's courage and skill. She had learned much in the past days, but this moment impressed upon her the true meaning of bravery, standing firm to protect others, even at personal risk. The battle continued, intense, but brief. The rogues, realizing that their strategy was failing, began to retreat toward the cliffs. Marcus and his team maintained their positions, ensuring the safety of the child and the camp before allowing the rogues to withdraw. As the dust settled, Marcus lowered his shield and approached the child. She ran to him, her voice filled with excitement and relief. "You protected me again," she said proudly, hugging his arm. Marcus smiled, gently patting her shoulder. "You were very brave too," he said. "You helped us and we kept each other safe." The queen descended from the cliffs, moving gracefully to her daughter's side. Her eyes were filled with tears, yet her expression was composed. She looked at Marcus, then at her daughter, and finally at the humans around them. Her voice, though still in the Varelian language, carried clear meaning, gratitude, respect, and recognition. The child stood proudly, pointing to Marcus and saying something the queen could not ignore. It was a declaration of loyalty and trust. The queen realized that the bond between her daughter and this human soldier was genuine and powerful. She had witnessed bravery, intelligence, and care, all qualities she valued deeply. Commander Elias approached Marcus quietly. "You handled that perfectly," he said. "The child's safety and the respect you've earned. It's more than I expected." Marcus nodded, still watching the child, who was now examining the rocks where the battle had occurred. "It is not just about protection," he said. "It is about trust, understanding, and working together." The queen motioned for her advisors to observe. She did not need to speak. Her actions were enough. She allowed her daughter to remain close to Marcus and the humans, signaling her recognition of the humans' value. The advisors, seeing her subtle gestures, began to reconsider their earlier warnings about trusting humans. With the rogues gone, Marcus and the team began assessing the battlefield. The child eagerly followed, examining every detail. She asked questions with gestures and sounds, and Marcus answered patiently, showing her how humans evaluated threats and learned from them. Each interaction strengthened their bond and provided the child with insight into another way of thinking and problem-solving. The queen remained on the cliff edge, her gaze softening as she watched her daughter engage with the humans. She realized that Marcus had done more than protect her child. He had inspired her, taught her, and earned a place in her daughter's heart. For the first time, she felt that humans might be allies, capable of contributing to the safety and growth of Varelian society. As evening approached, the team returned to the camp. The child carried small samples of plants and stones, proudly sharing her discoveries. Marcus helped her analyze them, explaining the human perspective on learning from the environment. The child listened intently, her eyes wide with curiosity and understanding. The queen finally approached, standing near her daughter and the humans. She did not kneel or bow, but her presence was commanding and protective. She observed quietly as Marcus interacted with her daughter, noting the careful respect and patience he displayed. "You have earned our trust," she said finally, her words simple but weighty. Her gaze lingered on Marcus, acknowledging the courage and care he had shown. The child looked up at her mother, beaming, and the queen's expression softened further. She had always valued strength, but now she understood that true power could also lie in wisdom, patience, and the protection of others. That night, under the light of the twin moons, the humans and the young Varelian girl sat together near the campfire. Marcus showed her simple ways to examine the stars while she shared stories of her world through gestures and drawings. The bond they had built through trust, courage, and shared experience was now unbreakable. The queen watched silently from the cliffs, her heart full. The rogues had been repelled, the child had been protected, and the humans had proven themselves valuable allies. A tear slid down her cheek, not of sorrow but of recognition and hope. For the first time, she truly believed that cooperation between humans and Varelians could bring strength, understanding, and a brighter future. As the night deepened, the child rested near Marcus, safe and content. The queen remained vigilant, yet a quiet confidence had settled within her. The rogues might return and challenges would continue, but the courage and ingenuity displayed today had shown that together, humans and Varelians could face almost anything. The stars shone brightly above the alien world, reflecting off the lakes and cliffs, and the camp remained quiet and safe. Marcus glanced at the child and then at the queen. For the first time, he felt a true connection not only with one Varelian, but with the possibility of peace between two very different worlds. The battle was over, but the lessons remained. Bravery, trust, and understanding had created bonds stronger than any conflict. Marcus knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, yet he felt ready, knowing that courage and friendship could light the way even in a distant and unfamiliar world. The morning sun rose over Viralia, casting golden light across the cliffs and lakes. The twin suns reflected off the water, creating sparkling patterns that danced across the rocky terrain. The air was calm, almost peaceful, but the memory of the previous day's battle still lingered. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stood near the camp, watching the young Varelian girl explore the area with curiosity. She moved confidently, pointing out strange plants and unusual rocks. Marcus followed her closely, ensuring she remained safe while allowing her freedom. The alien queen approached quietly, her long, graceful steps echoing softly against the rocks. She stopped beside Marcus, her eyes fixed on her daughter. The child had been brave, clever, and curious, but the queen had seen something even more remarkable: the way Marcus had protected and guided her daughter without hesitation, without expectation. The queen spoke in her language, her voice steady but filled with emotion. The child responded eagerly, pointing toward Marcus and speaking with pride. The queen's gaze softened, and for the first time she allowed herself to show a tear. It slid down her cheek, not of sadness, but of gratitude and awe. Marcus bowed his head respectfully, acknowledging the queen's gesture. He could not fully understand her words, but the meaning was clear. He had earned her respect and, more importantly, the trust of her daughter. Commander Elias approached, observing the scene quietly. "The queen's acknowledgement is remarkable," he said softly. "It shows that our presence here can lead to peace, not conflict." Marcus nodded, his eyes still on the child. "It is more than that," he replied. "It is proof that courage and kindness can build bridges between worlds." The young Varelian girl ran toward Marcus, her eyes bright with excitement. She handed him a small, smooth stone she had found near the lake. It was her way of showing appreciation, a gesture of friendship. Marcus accepted it gently, smiling as he placed it in his pocket. The queen watched them, her expression a mixture of pride and relief. She realized that the human soldier had done more than protect her daughter. He had inspired her, taught her patience, and shown that trust could cross even the greatest divides. The humans began preparing to move deeper into the planet for further exploration. Marcus helped the child gather samples of plants and minerals, showing her how humans recorded and analyzed information. She followed his instructions carefully, eager to learn and share knowledge. The queen approached the group, her presence commanding yet calm. She spoke softly to her daughter, who responded eagerly, pointing to Marcus and explaining what they had done. The queen listened carefully, nodding slowly. She understood that her daughter had seen the value of Marcus's guidance and bravery. A group of Varelian advisors arrived, curious to witness the interaction. They had been skeptical of humans, but the courage and protection Marcus had shown had shifted their perspective. They watched quietly as the Queen acknowledged Marcus and allowed her daughter to remain close to him. The child smiled proudly, holding Marcus's hand briefly before turning to show the advisors the plants and stones she had collected. She explained their purpose through gestures and sounds, and the humans nodded, recognizing her enthusiasm and intelligence. The Queen stepped closer to Marcus, her eyes meeting his. She did not speak their language, but her expression was clear: gratitude, respect, and trust. Marcus bowed slightly, acknowledging her acknowledgement. The bond between them was strong, built on courage, care, and mutual understanding. As the day progressed, the humans and Virelians worked together. Marcus showed the child how to use simple devices to study the environment, and she taught him about her world through gestures and observations. Each exchange strengthened their connection and built trust between the two species. The rogue faction, aware that their previous attempts had failed, retreated deeper into the cliffs. They posed no immediate threat, but the Queen knew that vigilance was still necessary. She relied on the humans' knowledge and courage, seeing that their presence could help maintain peace and stability on her planet. The child ran ahead, exploring a small grove near the camp. She found unusual flowers and carefully examined them, calling Marcus over to share her discovery. He knelt beside her, asking questions and showing interest in her findings. She laughed with delight at his attention, proud to share her knowledge. The Queen observed from a distance, smiling faintly. She realized that her daughter had grown confident and curious, and it was due to the guidance and protection of the human soldier. Marcus had taught her bravery, patience, and the value of trust. As evening approached, the humans and Virelians gathered near a calm lake. The water reflected the colors of the setting suns, creating a beautiful scene of peace and harmony. Marcus and the child sat together, sharing observations and discoveries from the day. The Queen joined them quietly, her presence reassuring and protective. The child pointed to Marcus and spoke proudly, telling the Queen how he had protected her and taught her many things. The Queen listened carefully, her eyes softening as she realized the depth of the bond that had formed. She approached Marcus, extending a hand in a gesture of gratitude and respect. Marcus accepted her hand, bowing slightly in acknowledgement. The Queen's eyes glistened with emotion, and she allowed herself a rare moment of openness. She had seen bravery, care, and intelligence displayed in a way that transcended species. Her daughter's safety and growth had been ensured by a human, and for that she was deeply grateful. Commander Elias spoke quietly to Marcus. "You have done more than protect her," he said. "You have built trust and created an opportunity for unity between our worlds." Marcus nodded, glancing at the child who was smiling brightly. "Trust can change everything," he said. "When bravery and kindness meet, even the greatest differences can be overcome." The Queen turned to her advisors who were watching intently. She explained, through gestures and careful speech, that the humans were not enemies but allies. They had proven themselves through action, protecting her daughter and showing intelligence and respect. The advisors nodded, understanding the importance of this declaration. As night fell, the twin moons rose, casting a gentle light across the camp. The child lay close to Marcus, exhausted but happy. The Queen stood nearby, her gaze soft yet vigilant. She knew that challenges would continue, but she also knew that today had shown the potential for unity and cooperation. The humans and Virelians shared a simple meal together, exchanging knowledge, observations, and stories. The child laughed as she tried to mimic Marcus's gestures, and he smiled, encouraging her curiosity and creativity. The Queen watched with quiet pride, understanding that the future held promise because of the trust and courage displayed that day. As the night deepened, the Queen finally spoke softly to her daughter, acknowledging her bravery and intelligence. The child smiled, pointing toward Marcus and giving a small bow of respect. The Queen's eyes filled with tears once more, proud of her daughter and grateful for the human soldier who had protected and guided her. Marcus stood quietly, observing the interaction. He had not expected such an emotional moment, yet he felt honored to witness the Queen's acknowledgement. He had acted with care, courage, and patience, and now the seeds of trust had grown into a bond that could change the course of relations between humans and Virelians. The child fell asleep near Marcus, resting safely under the watchful eyes of both humans and Virelians. The queen remained nearby, a silent guardian and witness to the new alliance forming between their worlds. The twin moons reflected off the lakes, creating a peaceful glow that bathed the camp in soft light. For the first time, humans and Virelians shared a quiet moment of understanding and harmony. The rogue faction had been defeated for now, but the true victory was the trust, respect, and unity that had been built. The queen approached Marcus one final time that night. She did not speak, but her gesture was clear. She offered a nod of deep respect and gratitude, a silent acknowledgement of the courage, intelligence, and care he had shown. Marcus bowed slightly in return, humbled by her recognition. As the stars shone above Virelia, the camp remained peaceful. The humans and Virelians had learned from each other, protected one another, and built bonds that promised a brighter future. Marcus glanced at the child, who slept soundly, and then at the queen, who had silently watched over them all. He felt a sense of fulfillment, knowing that bravery, kindness, and trust could truly bridge worlds. The queen finally allowed herself to relax, a rare smile touching her lips. Her daughter was safe. The humans had proven their worth, and a new era of cooperation was beginning. The bonds formed that day would serve as the foundation for understanding, unity, and shared growth. The child awoke briefly, looking at Marcus and then at her mother. She smiled and said something in her language which Marcus could not understand fully, but her meaning was clear: gratitude, friendship, and hope. Marcus smiled back, nodding gently. In that moment, under the twin moons and starlit sky, humans and Virelians understood something fundamental. Courage, kindness, and trust could overcome fear and suspicion. Differences could be celebrated rather than feared. And most importantly, even in a world full of uncertainty, unity and friendship could thrive. The night settled quietly over the cliffs and lakes. The human soldiers rested, the child slept peacefully, and